the first record was basically, a lot of it was written in order to grab people's attentions at gigs, because our first gigs were supporting bigger acts, and first on of 3 acts, and then you got 20 minutes, and you've got to make people go away remembering who you are. So there's no point. You can't do 20-minute guitar solos because you only got 20 minutes. So you have to be punchy.
Yeah.
And you have to chat. You
got to remember, even when they've seen the band they come to see, even if they didn't think you're the best band of the night, which is quite hard, but they want them to go home and look you up afterwards because they still remember.
And on the first record, you'll probably notice that a lot of the choruses repeat the same thing 4 times, because if you're repeating something, it gets in people's heads. And that was a device we used. And then, it's that chantiness and that anthemic nature that we wanted to bring back a little bit more into Kaiser Chiefs 2.0, and it's worked. And it's just remembering that thing about how do we grab them and not let them go. And I think we've done that on this record, and hopefully we'll be able to do it live as well as soon as we master how to get that last note at the end of Coming Home. Yeah, it's worrying me.
It's a difficult one to get.
I was like, right, I'm going in, I'm doing it now, I'm going to do it. I went in, and it was like, I'll do it in 20 minutes.
I think it's one of those things that you only do once in the studio. You do something once, and that's the take. You're like, okay, I'll never be able to play that again. But you learn it eventually.
I hope I do.
I actually like Tony Blair. We're not having a go at him at all. I think. Do you think that thing about the decision thing is actually valid?
That's really valid,
okay.
Because he made unpopular decisions.
Yeah, we had to make some big decisions. The voice was a big decision to make, right? In our band scheme of things. Is he going to do it? It's a big decision, and one of the things we did this year was try to make those big decisions.
Are we going to make a new record without Nick?
Yeah, you can't always make the right decision, but make a decision and move and just go with it.
Yeah.
Work out the consequences. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. I think Tony Blair I always believe that. I think he did a lot of good things for Britain. He was a guy who supported arts, like music and stuff. Like music in Britain and film in Britain was so on the up under Tony Blair's leadership. And then as soon as the Conservatives came in, they just cut all the funding. It's gone. I mean, it's a shame. But some of the decisions he made, I think he almost made them because he thought it was the right decision. But maybe in the end, if he looked back now, maybe he wouldn't make all the same decisions again. But I mean, who in life has made the right decision every single time? And if you're the leader of a country, there's quite a lot of hard decisions every day. I wouldn't want that job.
And nowadays, politicians, there's this thing they do in the UK at the moment where they'll say, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. And everyone goes, oh, that's not a good idea. So they say, all right, we're not going to do that. So it's like, all right, stick to your guns. If you were going to do, don't test the water, and then if it's not popular with the country, don't do it because you want to be voted in again. Because it's not a popularity contest. Being a politician, you're supposed to be guiding a country, and it's a job that we don't want, right? And it takes a very interesting personality to want that. And I think nowadays more than ever, I mean, Tony Blair was the last one to take that responsibility on. Nowadays, they're so worried about what people think about them. They're not making any decisions.
Well, there's no leader then.
There's no leader, and countries just drift along, and
So some of the title is obviously the Tony Blair thing. So the title is sort of because the album, I think, the education and war internally inside the Kaiser Chiefs, and also the themes of the record, and there's a bit of futility of politics and a bit of help me out, Ricky.
I think you're there. I think that's the thing about, we get quite confused, especially at the end of a day, a longer day of interviews, and the problem with us is not just the problem. It's the thing we want to do. We're not trying to answer any questions. We haven't got any answers. We've just got a lot of questions. And I think sometimes if you're making something, this is going to sound pretentious, when you're making something that's supposed to be art is supposed to ask more questions than it answers. People go to art galleries to make themselves think, and they don't go to get the answers.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think that's so. Sometimes it's really hard when you're sat down and you're desperately trying to answer why you did something, when the reason you did it was to ask the question yourself.
But equally, you see, with our music, where I think a sort of weird position where we don't want to make music where we want people to go like, oh yeah, that's a good point. We want people to jump up and down and have a good time. But equally, we don't want to just write a song about nothing. We want to write a song about something. So it's we're sort of in this sort of, we're not even in between. We're sort of doing both. We're trying to do both, and that's, I think, a difficult thing.
And that's why when we first started, even in our first conversations about it, what we were listening to, it started off listening to B-52s and ended up listening to Pink Floyd, and we said somewhere in between those two bands is where we want to sit.